WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. I want to thank you for being with us today each and every week. On Tuesdays at 2:30, we air with a replay at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday on Star Communications TV, Channel 16, WCLN Radio. Our guest today is two folks that you know one real well, I think, Dr. Alex Huff. Dr. Huff, you've been here in Clinton for a number of years now, attended medical school, East Carolina, graduated with honors, completed your internship at orthopedic surgery residency at Orlando Regional Medical Center in Orlando, Florida, completed additional fellowship and training in joint knee replacement at Florida Knee Center in Clearwater, Florida, married 3 children, ended up in Clinton, and we're so glad to have you back on the show, and I want to thank you up front for being a sponsor for this show from the early beginnings of it.
Sure. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
And Jeb Cleveland, want to thank you. You're, I'm not going to say you're a newcomer here, but you're kind of new to the area. Grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. You graduated with honors from the Citadel, major in business administration. And you then served 8 years in the U.S. Army Special Forces in Afghanistan. I'll stop right here and thank you for that service.
Thanks.
You were a medic, and after that, you graduated from PA school at Fayetteville Methodist University. You developed interest in healthcare and wellness and obesity, and now you're a PA and working with this guy.
Correct.
That pretty much sum it up?
It does.
So let's talk a little bit, and Dr. Huff, I'll start with you. It's been a journey for you. You could have been anywhere, but you've got a business here.
Right.
You do surgical procedures. You do sports medicine, one of about 2,000 in the whole country that focuses in that area. So your practice is a specialty practice. It brought you to Clinton, and we're so fortunate. My opening question to you is, how do we get more Alex Huffs in this area?
Well, it's been tough, and there was a little bit of luck involved. And you've heard that story about my relationship with Lou Starling and getting me into Clinton when I'd never been here before. But it's been a great thing. We've been here 24 years now, and I've got friends that practice all over the country that always wonder how I can make a living here in a town this small. Only 2% of board certified orthopedic surgeons. I'm board certified in 2 different areas of orthopedic surgery, sports medicine in general. But only 2% of orthopedic surgeons that are board certified practice in communities under 100,000 people. So that's how rare that is. But we've been able to make it work. It's been a good thing. And I think if you provide a good service and you're available, people will come, and they have. So it's been a privilege to serve the community in that way.
Jeb, I will kind of get a little background with you as well, and I hope I'm not opening any doors you don't want to talk about, but how much did your military service and your battlefield medical service push you forward to getting your PA and getting involved in what should I say, civilian medicine?
Right. Yes, sir. So 100% of what I experienced in the military got me to PA school. So as a Special Forces medic, we had extensive training in the military regarding medicine, obviously focused on a lot of trauma, but we had a lot of background in clinical medicine as well, because we were responsible for the teams we were deployed with and we were assigned to. So having that experience in the military really focuses you and gears you towards a career as a PA, because I don't know if you know, but the first PAs as the program started back in the 70s actually was modeled. A doctor had medics in the Vietnam War and realized they had tremendous experience, a lot of knowledge, and he was looking for ways to utilize them other than in war. So that's kind of how the PA program developed. And as an SF medic, you kind of get exposed to that kind of thinking and that kind of progression, and that pushed me to actually go to PA school. And I was done with the military. I had done that, 2 deployments. My wife was ready for me to do something else. So it's really a natural progression from that military experience into the PA program.
And I think sometimes we don't spend enough time kind of looking at the service that our military renders to each and every one of us. It's one of those times that only seems that we notice it when some conflict occurs, as we're looking at now with Russia as we sit here and we see our military being deployed. And I was in Fayetteville the other day and talking to some ex-military folks, and it's like, we had 3,500 deployed or what the number was. And all of a sudden it strikes us, without our military, without those people that's willing to step up and do what you've done, Jeb, we really are a very vulnerable country. Without that, it would be sad.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's talk a bit about, Dr. Huff, currently what's going on with joint replacements, the kinds of things you're doing. I know there's a lot of advertisement. I see a lot of stuff from Raleigh and Duke and Chapel Hill and different places about injections and all kinds of things. Are we able to kind of compete with that from a local area?
Absolutely. I always say, my personality type is I'm constantly looking on the horizon and analyzing and studying and looking at results and seeing what's good, what we should keep, what we should incorporate into our practice, and what we should discard, what maybe needs to be put on the back burner for a while until there's more evidence to suggest that it helps. But I would say the biggest accomplishment and the only good thing that's come out of this COVID pandemic for us as an orthopedic surgeon in Clinton, North Carolina, is the basically forced ability to be able to do outpatient knee replacement surgery. So when I first came to Clinton, people came in the hospital on Monday, we did their knee replacement, they went home on Thursday or Friday. So they stayed in 4 or 5 days. We were able to shorten that to a 2-day stay prior to COVID. But when COVID hit, I was forced with not being able to admit people to the hospital because the hospital beds were reserved for the COVID patients. And so I started doing some research around the country and finding some pockets where they were doing some outpatient joint replacement. And I basically used those protocols, obtained them, talked with people on the phone and obtained their protocols. We put together what's called Joint Camp. So now, for instance, if you were going to have a knee replacement with me, prior to that, you would attend a seminar at the hospital where you would be educated on what to expect before, during, and after your knee replacement. Also, the medications you would need, you would be prescribed and pick them up before you ever come to the hospital. The equipment that you would need, including an exercise bike that is wirelessly hooked into my office that tells me how much you use it, what your range of motion of your knees is when you're using it. It tells me how you're doing. I can track it real time, remotely. So those are things that we've been able to do. And so the Joint Camp's been a really big thing, and that has allowed us to do outpatient knee replacement, which is just great. I've got a good friend in Birmingham, Alabama, who just had his knee replaced himself. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He told me he was going to be the first one in his hospital to have it done as an outpatient. And I told him, I said, well, we've been doing it for 2 years here.
Wow.
And he was impressed by that. And fortunately, knock on wood, we've not had a single patient that's had an outpatient knee replacement have to come back to the hospital. So we've been very successful in that regard. No readmissions.
Do you find that in just discussing this about the procedural part and the things that you do both pre and post, that if there are problematic issues, that oftentimes it comes when a person doesn't do the correct exercises, they don't do the follow-ups properly, that kind of thing?
Right, and it's usually a lack of information. The fear, the anxiety associated with the fear of the unknown is usually worse than the actual event, okay? When a scary movie comes on, if you haven't seen it before, there's parts of it that are scary. But when you've seen that scary movie 3 or 4 times, it becomes a comedy.
Yeah.
You think about it, it becomes kind of funny.
Yeah.
So with knee replacement, if you don't know what to anticipate or what to expect, what should the wound look like? How much pain should you have? How much activity? Is it okay to take a shower? These kinds of things. If you don't know the answer to those questions, it creates a lot of anxiety. But when you know those answers from attending something like Joint Camp, the recovery process is made so much more smooth.
Jeb, as a PA working with Dr. Huff, and I'm kind of keep the conversation on this area right now, we're going to get into some other things later, but do you find that part of that is part of what you do as well, trying to educate and explain and make sure folks are not only informed, but walk away with a refreshed look?
Absolutely. patient education and patient knowledge is the key to understanding not just knees or joints, but any kind of health condition. The more information and education the patient has, the more they feel like they have some ownership of it and they know what to expect. And then you always ask them if they have any other questions, answer as much question, give them too much information almost where they feel like and you have to break it down to where they can understand it. Once they understand things and you get all the questions out of the way, then they have much better outcomes.
Has the how should I say, the hardware improved over the past 3 to 5 years in your business?
It has. Some things that have changed. People hear the term antioxidant. You hear about it with vitamins and things that you can take. Vitamin E being a famous antioxidant. And so now the bearing surfaces are treated and manufactured in a environment where they are impregnated, if you will, with vitamin E. And so that has shown to provide better wear characteristics for the bushings in the knee replacement. So there's still an alloy of cobalt chrome, titanium, and a heat molded and compression molded polyethylene liner. That's getting kind of technical, but suffice it to say that the metals are better and the bearing surfaces last a lot longer. Right now, it's 92% will last 30 years. So that's significantly improved from years gone by.
Is most of the patients you guys see, are they, and this is a quick question because I'm going to have to go to break in about 30 seconds here, but do you see most patients 60 or above? What's the demographics look like?
I think we're seeing patients younger and younger. People are bigger than they used to be.
Yeah.
All you got to do is look at your old class pictures from the 50s, and those kind of people are bigger. And so I think just like a SUV or a big Suburban wears the tires out faster than a Volkswagen Beetle, that's what we're doing to ourselves as humans. So I think size plays a role in it, but patients are getting younger, I think. But to answer your question, I would say probably mid-60s is the typical joint replacement age.
We're going to exit, and we're going to come back in the next segment with the question, is bigger better? And in some situations, I suspect it may not be, but we're going to explore that and discuss that a bit more in detail. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We're talking with Dr. Alex Huff and Jeb Cleveland, who is a PA with Dr. Alex Huff, about some significant issues that you can use and need to know about your life. We'll be back in a moment.
Let's get out of here.
Protect what matters most in your life with security from Star Communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on there. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host. We're talking with Dr. Alex Huff, 24 years here in Clinton as a surgeon and a sports medicine expert. Also, we're talking with Jeb Cleveland, who's a PA with Dr. Huff. And I think, Jeb, I keep thinking about your background and how critically important your training with the military and the special forces is to the job you're doing now working with Dr. Huff. As we went to break, we were talking about a number of things, and I want to kind of bring that question back again to the idea of bigger being better. And in vehicles sometimes, or depending on if you're flying on a plane or what have you, a bigger plane you might need a larger vehicle for some things. But when you look at the human body, some of the data reveals that we are getting bigger. Some people might think, well, getting there was fun and that was better, but is it actually better for our body?
Right. It's, I think the data is pretty clear that over the last 40 years or so, the average size of humans has changed. The average size of Americans is bigger. And all you got to do is pull out your old high school yearbook. And if you graduated in the 80s, you can look and see, you might see 4 or 5 people in your class that were significantly larger than the others. And if you pull your granddads out from the 50s, you might see no one in that picture that was significantly what you would consider obese now. Right. But if you pull out a yearbook from now, half of the people in the picture are what we would consider overweight. Whether that's from environmental issues, the readiness of food, how available it is, fast foods, hormones in the food. genetics, natural selection and things like that. I think it all plays a role. But the end result is that it's a strain on our heart, it's a strain on our lungs, and it's certainly a strain on our bones and joints. And that's where I have become interested in it.
Jeb, when we think about this whole idea of, I guess maybe I'll use the term wellness. One of the things the military teaches you up front is this idea of fitness and being in shape, both mentally and physically. How does that translate into what you're going to be doing and working with Dr. Huff?
Well, it's important, like in my background, in my history, of course, in the military, being physically fit is a huge part of it. You got to be able to do your job. You have to be physically fit. But as I've gotten into this wellness with Dr. Huff and we've started this clinic, I've done a lot more research and a lot more education. I've gotten a lot more education on all the factors that go into it. And there's no doubt obesity is the number one, in my opinion, number one health problem this country faces. 42% of Americans aren't just overweight, but they're technically obese with a BMI of over 30. And it's multifactorial. It's the amount of food that we have, the food that's so plentiful, the types of food that we're eating. And a lot of people, you don't get the education coming up about what nutrition is, about what kind of foods you should eat. Everybody kind of has that basic concept of, I shouldn't eat too much, or if I eat too much, I'll gain weight and I can just exercise. But there's a whole lot that goes into it, not just exercise to lose weight. You have to limit what you eat. So a lot of people, if you think, they think a 2,000 calorie diet, for example, is a normal diet. But most people, and that's something we get into, is we calculate what their calorie needs should be. And a lot of people don't even need 2,000 calories a day. So if they're on a 2,000 calorie diet, people start to gain weight. And we get into a lot of the nuts and bolts of it. But in general, obesity leads to, like Dr. Huff was saying, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. There's all kinds of health problems that come with it. And in this current environment of COVID, other than old age, the number one risk factor for having a negative outcome with COVID is obesity. And we've really, for the last 2 years, haven't heard enough about that on the airwaves from the CDC, from whoever, about basic wellness and health, and having a good normal body weight is so important to so many aspects of your health.
Dr. Huff, what when you looked at, and we're talking about a whole new section, as Jeb referred to, you're basically taking on, if you look at it like a department store, a whole new department in your huge department store there.
Right. What happened really was so many patients would come to my office and tell me that their knees hurt. And I would see these people, and they may be, let's just say, for example, typical a 50-year-old man or a 50-year-old female. Their knees hurt. They're working, they're paying mortgages, they're paying car payments, they're trying to get their kids into college and get that paid for. They can't take the time off it takes to stop and have major reconstructive surgery. They can't take 6 weeks off work. 6 weeks without a paycheck is a big deal. And so, and then really, I may say to myself, they really don't, their x-rays are not that bad. They don't really need a knee replacement yet. We need to put that off until they're older. Really, what they need is to lose 40 pounds. They could lose 40 pounds, unload those knees, and I bet they could continue in the workforce and feel better, and actually may reduce their A1C, their type 2 diabetes, reduce their blood pressure, things like that. And so I've always had an interest, and if you've been in my office and talked to me, you'll know that I'm pretty passionate about weight loss. I'll often go on to a long discussion about how we can help you lose weight through dieting. Well, on top of that, it came across my desk one time that just recently, in the last year, in Illinois and Wisconsin, Medicare is no longer going to approve people for knee replacements if their BMI is over 44. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, gosh, a lot of people in Sampson County have a BMI of 44. Does that mean I'm not going to be able to get reimbursement for their knee replacements? I'm not going to be able to let them have a knee replacement? So it got me thinking about, how can I incorporate weight loss into my clinic? And so I started researching different franchises, if you will, of weight loss. And we basically purchased the business model for one called Weight Loss MD. That business model allows me to name it what I want to. And we came up with the name Huff Wellness. And so we contacted the state of North Carolina and the North Carolina Medical Board, and we established a new LLC under Huff Wellness, and we got our in-house pharmacy registered with the state of North Carolina and the medical board. We have our dispensing license for pharmacy products. I sent my staff to Atlanta, including me, to get educated from the experts at Weight Loss MD. And we're able to offer this service now. And I was amazed at how expensive it was. It's not covered by insurance right now, but people can use their health savings account to pay for it. But this program's not covered by insurance. And so I'm thinking, wow, in Sampson County, there's quite a few people that need it, but they may not be able to afford it. We got to make it affordable. Well, I didn't need to lease or add more space. I'm not leasing a storefront next to a supermarket in Garner, North Carolina for $19 a foot. I converted some of my current office space into clinic space for Huff Wellness. And we already had the pharmacy. I didn't have to add more staff other than Mr. Cleveland. And he's an expert in this area. But so we were able to get it up and running for half the price of our competitors. I saw a lady this morning who saw you, Jeb, that said that her initial consultation was going to be $175, I think, out of town. And we were offering it for $99. So, so I think that we're going to be able to be about half the price of our surrounding areas for all of the products. And I'll let Jeb talk more about what we offer. But basically, it's going to be a holistic plan of diet and exercise and education, including blood draws, EKGs, et cetera. And you would leave my office with the medications in hand. You don't go to the pharmacy and fill them. We fill them in the office, and you would leave the office with everything you need for success.
You know, one of the exciting things to me, just listening to what you just explained, is that you're going to be able to give folks an alternative to being cut and replacement and those kinds of things, because that is a huge fear.
Sure.
So the catalyst to Huff Wellness is this could be a solution for you, but you will really never know unless you sign up for the program, Jeb, and take a shot. Does that make sense?
Correct.
So going forward, how will this work? Will you see the person, whoever the patient may be, and say, okay, you kind of fit all the protocols to be able to maybe extend time without a hip replacement, knee replacement, what have you, and I'm going to refer you over to Huff Wellness, and Jeb, you kind of take the reins and run with it from there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, but I've been amazed at the word of mouth. Just since we opened in the last 3 weeks, most of the patients that have come in or have called either saw us through an ad on Facebook or something like that. We do have a website, Huff Wellness, or they have talked to people that have been in the program and they wanted to come in too. So they're, in fact, I think probably only a handful of patients were actually patients that I put into the program. The majority of them have just called the office directly and scheduled an appointment because of what they've heard already in the community.
And the beauty is the facilities there. I think that's a key point.
Right.
You know, they only have to go down Beeman Street and depending on which way they're going, look over to the left or right, and there you are from the hospital. So, I mean, it's like your proximity is right on point.
Right. To be clear, you do not have to be a Huff Orthopedic patient to come see us at the Wellness Clinic. Anyone can come. And that's one thing we do when we get new patients, anybody, we do a health screening, we do a full history, we check out their medical history to see if they're appropriate. And then we work with anybody from young females to older males in the whole weight spectrum, basically.
And a question for either one of you guys, again, trying to keep focused on this wellness piece, because I'm big on wellness. It's this obesity thing, and you see this a lot, as you just pointed out. What do you attribute that to? Is that lifestyle? Is that just dietary intake? What is it? Because you pointed out that it's there, and I got about 30 seconds for you to start that. We'll pick it up.
I would say it's multifactorial. Everybody is an individual, and everybody's got their own story of how they got there. But in general, food has become more plentiful. Food has become much more calorie dense, and our lifestyles have become more sedentary in general.
And I think that within itself would probably kind of lead us to kind of get into our next break. But before we do, I'll mention there's a couple of books out. One of them is Sugar Busters, which has been out for about 5 years now. And it had a predecessor that was out back in the 70s and 80s that talked about sugar intake and combining that with other caloric kind of intake. So when we come back from break, I want to kind of go into the diet component, if that makes sense, and kind of see what your thoughts are in that area. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking with Jeb Cleveland, a physician's assistant, and Dr. Alex Huff, orthopedic surgeon, about wellness before you have to go in to the knife.
Just because something may work doesn't mean it's right for your business. Let Star Communications' knowledgeable consultants help you customize a hosted voice system that's right for you. Our dedicated experts work with you to understand your business needs and guide you at every step, from choosing and installing services to ongoing maintenance and support. Contact Star today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us. We're talking with Dr. Alex Huff, 24 years orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine here in Clinton. Also, Jeb Cleveland, physician's assistant, experience in the military, extensive experience in Afghanistan with the Special Forces. Anytime I hear the word Special Forces, Jeb, I think that, it's almost like Superman. You see these things that gets done and you don't talk about it, but the president's somewhere looking at it on camera and nobody else sees it 3 days later, and then he tells you about it. Well, Special Forces, Delta, some of that crowd is doing it. So thank you for that service. Huff Wellness, new name, getting out into the community. It's somewhat separate because you indicated in the last segment that it was like a LLC, so you got it set up separately.
Yes.
Jeb, you've kind of taken on that challenge to make sure not only is that successful, but it meets some of the protocols medically. It meets protocols in the sense of business stuff. But the big thing is it meets a social and I'm going to put this in the mix here in the conversation, a social psychological challenge for us. Right. Because I think there is a piece of this that is psychological. Would you agree? Either one of you?
I would.
Yeah.
So everybody, needs to have some kind of acknowledgement. They have, somebody comes in that's obese and they have weight to lose. They want to lose weight. They need someone to talk to about it. Anybody can get on the internet and try to figure out what I need to do to lose weight. But it helps a lot of people psychologically or socially to come in and know that they're not alone. They're not the only one to have a problem, and they can sit down and talk to someone who's going to explain things clearly to them and rationally and say, this is where we are, this is where you need to be, and you can get there, and give them that positive reinforcement, but give them clear guidance on how to get there and explain the numbers to them as far as calories go, as far as intake goes, as far as that whole energy balance where they need to meet certain numbers in order to get weight off.
One of the things I wanted to, and either both of you can kind of respond to this, but a number of books and a number of articles. I've got a Harvard article here that talks about sugar, and it's almost as it is explaining the intake of sugar. It analyzes in such a way that sugar seems to be a carcinogen to the body. I mean, if you look at it in realistic terms, the more sugar you suck in, although it is quite addicting itself, it's literally destroying the functionality of many of the organs and adds to that obesity thing.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the sugars you're talking about, we break down our foods into basic categories: fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. It's those carbohydrates that really are the culprit behind a lot of the obesity. You've got your simple carbs, which you're talking about, those refined sugars, the white bread, all the things that are packaged in cakes, those kind of little Debbie things, these really rich calorie dense foods that are high in carbohydrates, which in general, carbohydrates are a great source of energy. It's what we need, but our diets have become over the last 20, 30 years so heavy in carbs that those carbs we're taking in, even if the calories might not be that high, but the proportion is higher carbs. If you're not burning that energy and using it up, then your body's going to turn it around and store it. And so what happens is people take in too many carbs or too many calories. They're not using it. Like as we were talking about earlier, they're more sedentary. If you're not using that energy, your body's going to store it, because through evolution, coming through the caveman times, we were hunters and gatherers. We never knew when the next meal was coming. So our bodies developed, that thrifty gene thing. We were going to eat, and whatever food we have, we're going to store it if we're not using it, because we never know when the famine's coming. But nowadays, there's no famine. You go anywhere and there's food plentiful every shelf and every store. You can't go to the gas station without having food everywhere. And so what happens is our diets have changed. We've started to take in too much and we don't expend enough energy, but it's those types of carbs, those refined sugars that really get to us.
And Alex, when I think about it, and I use the psychological part of it, because there's a behavioral trait here, it's almost like to approach this, you guys have to make sure that folks don't feel shamed because they're 30, 40 pounds overweight. How delicate a thread is that for you to get through, to get people so you're not saying, well, it's kind of clear. I mean, maybe you got somebody to come in, couldn't fit in the chair. We got an issue, right? But you don't want. I mean, you can't be like the military. Okay, we're fixing to run you through this, and
right. I mean, like Jeb said, everyone has their own story, and it kind of creeps up on you, And typically, a very common scenario is the mid-40s, late 40s female. When she was in high school, she was 30 pounds lighter.
110 pounds,
yes.
5'5".
Yeah. But when you think about it, they go through childbirth a couple of times, and then you go through changes of life, and the hormones are not what they were. And we measure all those things, by the way. We can do all that kind of stuff too. But when they're not like what they were, and so it may be only, let's just say 3,500 calories is a pound. Okay, so if you knock off 500 calories a day, okay, that's 3,500 calories a week, which is a pound a week. And that's probably the way, or maybe even half a pound a week is how they put it on. So you put on 2 pounds a month for a year, that's 24 pounds, If you put on a half a pound a month for several years, pretty soon you've gained 30 pounds, but you don't really notice it because it's not happening overnight. You just notice you're going up a dress size or a pant size or a belt size. You're like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're not made the way they used to be. Well, the fact is you're just getting bigger. And so you got to take it off in a healthy way as well. But to get over that, you have to be compassionate to the patients. One reason we call it Huff Wellness and not like a weight loss clinic is we don't want that stigma of saying, well, I'm going into the weight loss clinic.
Yeah.
One reason we got the in-house pharmacy license is so that people can leave with everything they need. So it's a private thing. It's a private thing. It's a personal thing. Our bodies are personal and private things, to a lot of people. So you'll come in and get the information you need. And we're not just prescribing medications. I knew that wasn't going to work. It's got to take a change, just about a repentance, just about an emotional or religious experience to say, okay, this is the old me and this is going to be the new me. I need someone to help me get there. Well, that's where Jeb comes in, because he can analyze, he can have a conversation with you. First, he can do the lab work, do the EKG, make sure you're safe to have whatever treatments we're going to utilize, but have a conversation with him. Some diets aren't going to work for every people. Some people want, for instance, some people like the substitution diets where they get a shake, a high protein, low calorie shake to substitute a couple of meals a day, and it keeps them full. Other people don't want those substitute shakes. They want to eat what they've been eating. They just need to cut down the proportions, and they need to know how. For instance, or they may be eating the wrong types of what they think to be good foods. Is it green beans from a can, or is it fresh green beans from the produce section? How are they cooked? Are they heated up with lard, or are they heated up with water? Things like that. So there's different, and some people just need education on that. Well, I think I can eat all the chicken I want. Well, you can, but do we need to fry it in the cast iron skillet, or do we need to grill it or bake it? So there's different things that Jeb would have these conversations with people, even down to where do I find this? And Jeb has even taken it upon himself to go through Carly C's Food Line and Walmart here in Clinton and make sure that the things that we're telling you to buy is available, even down to the shelf that it comes from. So that's the type of person Jeb is, and that's one thing that really impressed me. But it does you no good to give you a diet that you can't stick to because you don't understand it or you don't know where to find the stuff.
Or even if you can't afford it.
Or you can't afford it, exactly. And so this is a conversation where you sit down with him and have let us get a good understanding of what your needs are and expectations are, and then the time frame. You may say, well, my daughter's getting married in June. I've got 4 months to get into this dress. Or you may say, I'm not really on a time frame. It came on over 20 years. We want to get it off over the next few years.
Yeah.
And so there's differences.
Jeb, that's a good point. The immediacy, typically, for when I say us Americans as a whole, we are an immediate society. Right. I mean, let's face it, we stand in front of a microwave and say, hurry up.
If you don't see results, you quit.
Exactly. We're like, let's go. So how do you get through that?
Well, I have to stress to them, like as Dr. Huff was saying, the weight didn't come on in a month. It didn't come on in 2 months. This is something that's been building slowly, usually over years and years. And so I tell them, it's going to take some time to get off. We can get it off quicker, but work with me to get real weight loss. It takes change, and it takes, you will see a slope. It's not just going to disappear. But what I want to do and what I stress for them is we'll get a lot of weight off quickly. We can, but it's going to take a little bit of time. You might hit a plateau. But really, what I really want them to focus on is the wellness aspect of it. I don't want to see like just the scale dropping from one amount down to another. I want them, and I tell them they're going to feel better. Their blood pressure will get better. They'll be able to stop taking blood pressure meds. Their type 2 diabetes will get better. They'll feel better generally. They'll be more active. They'll be able to do more with their lifestyle. So they'll feel better. They'll lose inches. They won't just lose pounds. Their clothes will fit better. So there's a whole variety of things we talk about, other than just let's lose some pounds. I want their whole lifestyle to change. I want them to get better. I want them to have that education about what they're doing, where they just generally feel better and are healthier.
Do you guys see working with nutritionists in schools and those kinds of places to get children and younger people involved? Because let's face it, we do have situations that are a lot of younger folks.
Right. I think education is the key. I mean, the more you know, the better we can do, and the more we can take control of our own lives. But I would be happy to meet with anyone in the school system about what's going on.
I thought of that because I know you've done a lot of work with sports and sports medicine with ball teams and all the other kinds of things. So it just seems to be a natural kind of fit to also engage public schools, because that pretty much represents a large area and the massive population. The big thing here is, although we're a rural county, we're talking 72 miles from one end to the other. So it's stretched out pretty good. So you got to be able to somehow reach them with a message or with a communication, or do something that can flash on the screen somewhere. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. When we come back, I want to kind of fill in any spaces that we might have missed as relates to what a person may expect if they pick up the phone, call you, or go online and register, or I don't know, walk up to the door, knock on the door and say, hey, I need to drop 50 pounds. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking about things that impact your life each and every day, or you may know somebody that it does. We're talking about your health, your wellness, and we'll kind of explore some additional details. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're coming up on our last segment of We Should Know. I'm J.W. Simmons, your host, and I always like to stop just for a brief moment and thank you for your input for this show. We always look at those emails sent to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Thank you for your comments about shows, about things you would like to see and understand more about, and we certainly try and we strive to bring that to you each and every week. Also, you can continue to drop us a card or a note or a suggestion to Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. If you happen to live in the area here, it's also known as Clinton, North Carolina. You choose how you want to say that. So either one of those contact points has been very good for us, and hope it has for you. So continue to reach out. Let us know what you think, especially today's show as we talk about wellness along with surgical things. Normally, Dr. Huff and Jeb, we kind of find ourselves thinking about Dr. Huff, orthopedic surgeon, and we think about cutting on things, and we think about replacing things. Jeb, it seems like your role is going to be the other part of that, which is wellness. But before we get away from the cutting on and injecting stuff, there's been quite a few changes in the injection side of the business. Am I correct?
Yes, there has. Over the last few years, and all you got to do is turn on any radio, you'll hear radio advertisements around us for different clinics that offer injections for osteoarthritis. And I'll tell you that we stay on top of all of that, and we offer all of those at our office. And in fact, if it's covered by insurance, that's beautiful. If it's not covered by insurance, we still offer it at probably about half the rate around us. But the different injections, at one time there was only cortisone injections. And so there was different types of steroid injections, cortisone injections, but basically they fell into the category of a pain relieving anti-inflammatory injection. But there's limited utility, and really they have a limited number that a person can receive in a certain time. So other injections include hyaluronate. Any woman that uses cosmetics has heard that term, because hyaluronate is in all the women's cosmetics nowadays. That's the rooster comb shot. The original ones were derived from fluid that came from a rooster comb. Plastic surgeons use that for injections in the lip and face to reduce wrinkles. Orthopedic surgeons have been using it in the knee and other joints to treat osteoarthritis. It's a viscose supplement cushioning injection that's covered by insurances. We offer that. We also offer platelet-rich plasma injections. People talk about stem cell injections and PRP injections. We offer those things as well. And fortunately, the price has come way down on those, mainly because the kits and the equipment used to prepare the solution has come down as well. And so we're able to offer those types of injections at basically half the cost of what other places, what our competitors are charging in Raleigh, Wilmington, and Fayetteville. So I just wanted to make mention of the fact that injections can often spare or delay surgery.
And I think one of the important things with that piece is that you get the same product, the same quality service right here locally. And number one, you don't have to drive. You don't have to expose yourself to the wild traffic around some of the other cities going on now. And it's an easy in, kind of easy out kind of thing. And certainly your background and certification, it pretty much matches anybody else in the area. So.
Yeah, the hyaluronic injections, I actually was involved in a pilot program back in 1997 and 1998 in Florida. So I've been using those now for over 20 years.
Can those injections extend, or does it typically extend a person's time before they need to do anything else?
It depends on the patient, but I would say 70% of the patients are going to get at least 70% relief for about a year.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. That's great. Let's talk about Huff Wellness now as we look at that new segment. Jeb, you've been dubbed the king of Huff Wellness as we talk today. So I want to kind of, if you can, give us kind of an idea of what you're anticipating as a person's first visit to see you and to get involved in a medically sponsored, medically reviewed wellness program. Tell us what kinds of things folks should look for.
Right. So a typical patient can expect: call us up, find us on Facebook, find us on our website, huffwellness.com. They make an appointment. Basically, they come in the morning, Monday through Friday, one of those days, whatever we can fit in, whatever we have appointments for. They come in, they fill out their patient history form. We perform an EKG on them, make sure their heart's regular rate and rhythm. We get basic lab work on them. We check their kidney function, their blood counts, their liver functions, all their electrolytes, make sure those are within normal ranges. And then they come and see me, and we sit down and we have a conversation. I've had sit downs with patients sometimes over an hour, and we discuss all their history, everything that's pertinent to where they are now, where they've been in the past as far as their weight, and where they want to go. And then we decide what's the best method for them to get there. And so going back on the last segment where we talked about how do we talk about things like weight loss and obesity, and psychologically, there's no hiding someone's obesity. And right off the bat, we get their height, we get their weight, we get their BMI and their body fat percentage, and we go from right there, because what gets measured gets improved. And I stress that to them. Look, this is how much you weigh today, and this is where you want to be, and this is how we'll get there. And we can get there. And we, discuss the different, calories, calorie amounts that they could or should be on, different plans that we have to get them there, the types of food they're going to need to eat, the percentages of their diet that they'll be there, and then some of the medications we offer to either help them when they are on a low-calorie diet. They're going to be hungry sometimes. So we have appetite suppressants. We have different ones that we can use to help them resist those cravings and that hunger. That helps them hit their calorie counts. We also have some other medications we can use to help give them some energy, because some people come in and say, I feel tired. A lot of that is depending because of what they're eating now. They're not getting the proper nutrition, but the nutrients that they need for energy. But we can supplement that with a B12 shot, for example, or a lipotropic shot. And so all these different things we can tailor to the patient specifically. You know, I can say, and they can look, that's the mountain I want to climb, and I can give them all the tools they need to get there. I can give them the map, and I'll be there with them anytime they have to, need to ask me a question. But they're the ones ultimately they're going to take those steps to get there. We just want to be there with them to help them and give them all the tools they need for success.
One of the things that strikes me, Dr. Huff, as Jeb is explaining this, is significantly different than walking into a gym and saying, okay, here's my $10 enrollment, and you get on any machine you want. You have no idea. I mean, you could get on a machine that's going to blow your heart up and not know it. You're talking about a medically based, aggressive approach to deal with a medical issue.
Right. We've got, it's amazing, but what can get involved and how deeply involved you can get. But we offer all of this too as well through Jeb's instruction and supervision. There would be electronic communication via email, kind of like an app on your phone that would help monitor. Like Jeb said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
That's right.
So we can see the progress that you're making. And Jeb could give us some examples, within patient confidentiality rules of some of the success stories that he's had. And I've been amazed hearing about them as well. People get excited when they see results, and we've been able to get results through the medications, through the injections. But I don't want to emphasize just the medications, because the diet and, like I said, the lifestyle change that occurs. But when there's some emotional involvement, that's how change comes about. And the success, even in the short time that we've been open, Jeb will tell me every day someone that comes in and is just tearful or excited about the fact that their pant size has gone down, or that they get on the scale. One lady got on the scale and thought our scale was wrong. We had to measure on 2 different scales to make sure it was accurate, because she couldn't believe that she lost 8 pounds or something in the week. 12 pounds, sorry. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that's important, because you are talking about lifestyle change. But again, it's back to scientific, medically based decisions.
Correct. There's nothing magic about it. It is, we lay it out for them exactly how it's going to be. You follow this plan and you will lose weight. There's nothing that you can do just to show up. It's not like just showing up on weekdays and clocking in, clocking out. This is something you have to commit to. But we're here, we are here to help them commit to it, stick to it, and give them everything they need to be
successful. And available
successful.
through communication, et cetera.
And it sounds like that one of those things, that lifestyle change becomes an effective medication within itself.
Yeah, some people come in weekly. They really don't want to miss those injections. They feel so much better after they get them. It gives them the energy. They sleep better. They have more energy during the day. I've been amazed how people will say, well, I want to make sure I can come in and get my injections. And that's been something that's been really, I think, a good offering.
Well, lifestyle also includes like sleep depravity, all those kinds of things that hampers good health.
Correct.
Inflammatory issues. I mean, that's a big issue on the health scene now, is taking care of inflammation issues. I see that everywhere in the literature I've been looking at.
Accountability is big. When there's something on your phone that tells you haven't walked today, or that you've walked 10,000 steps a day, that accountability that Jeb has access to as well is I think helps to improve the success of the program.
We've got about 30 seconds each. I'm going to give you a few seconds here for closure. We're going to be coming to closure a minute, and I'll start with you, Jeb, and we'll bring him in last. How about that?
Okay. I would just like to say, and I tell this to every patient, it's not something I expect them to do forever, but what I want them to do is give me a few months, give us some time to make those changes, make positive impacts on your life. But what I really want them to take away from it is a new way of looking at food, education on what they're doing to themselves, their body. And I want them to make the positive changes, but I want them also to incorporate those people around them. Their family members need to know, like we were talking about earlier, education is key. So if we can get one person to learn this and know what they're doing and make positive changes, then that person, they become force multipliers. That's what we did in Special Forces. We were force multipliers. You put a small team in and we train more people. So we train one person at a time. They go home and they get their family members involved, and then it's a ripple effect.
Exponential,
and
absolutely.
then the community gets healthier, and it's just better for all of us.
About 20 seconds.
I'm just thankful to be here. I'm thankful for the privilege to practice in Sampson County and surrounding areas. I'm thankful to folks like yourself who've got confidence and trust in us. I'm so thankful that I ran into Jeb and we were able to contact one another. I think we've got a great program going that'll be successful.
Okay, thank both of you for being here, Dr. Alex Huff, Jeb Cleveland. I look forward to seeing you again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week and each and every week, Tuesday at 2:30. And as always, may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.